This teleseminar is about 32 minutes long and is divided into 11 sections. You can directly access any section by dragging your video playhead to the appropriate start time for each section. Hi, I'm Matt Winslow from the Automotive Training Institute. Welcome to Creating Consistency by Optimizing Your Courtesy Check Process. During the next hour, we'll look at first, why courtesy checks are critical to profit. Next, why many shop owners are frustrated because their courtesy checks aren't being performed consistently. And finally, we'll discover how to create consistency with every car and every technician by creating optimized procedures and effective accountability. So why are courtesy checks so critical to sustain profit in your shop? Let me give you 3 reasons. Number 1, they help increase sales. Number 2, they help increase productivity. And number 3, they help create higher margins. A typical auto repair shop's sales are usually a 50-50 mix of parts to labor. For example, this shop's parts sales are 49.4% of their total sales, and their labor sales are 50.9% of their total sales. Maintaining this 50-50 mix is critical to maximizing your shop's productivity and your profit. Here's why. You buy labor hours from your technicians, but you sell auto repair and auto service, which is a combination of labor and parts sales. When you buy an hour of labor from your tech, how much are you looking to sell that hour of time for? Well, your sales goal per hour per tech is essentially your labor rate divided by your labor percent of sales. So if you have an $85 an hour labor rate and labor is 50% of your gross sales, then you're looking to sell that hour of time for $170 of parts and labor, not just $85 worth of labor. If you focus heavily on diagnostic and electrical services, you may find your labor percent of sales is substantially higher than your parts. This may actually reduce the potential value of every hour you have to sell. In this example, if your labor percent of sales is 60% of your gross sales, then every hour you have to sell is only worth $142, 85 in labor and 57 in parts. Now, your technicians have to be 20% more productive just to produce the same top-line sales as if you had a 50-50 mix. So why do consistent courtesy checks help? Because courtesy checks help you sell easy-to-install parts add-ons along with most of your labor operations. Highly profitable add-ons including brake springs, fuel additives, wiper blades, and cabin and engine air filters. Consistent courtesy checks also help increase your average repair order, and larger repair orders reduce the number of cars you need to work on each week to reach your sales goals. At this shop's current average repair order of $211 per car, they need to work on at least 76 cars each week to reach their sales goal of $831,000 per year. But with better courtesy checks and by using effective sales skills at the counter, they could potentially sell about 2.5 hours per car, which for this shop is about $417 of parts and labor per ticket. And at an average ticket of $417 per car, they'd only need to work on just 38 cars each week to reach their sales goal. By the way, productivity would also increase because their technicians would spend less time moving cars in and out of the shop and more time fixing cars and making money. Higher productivity usually means a higher effective labor rate. You can check your effective labor rate by looking at line 40 in ATI's data portal when viewing your ATI Mechanical Shop Performance Report. Consistent courtesy checks also help you make more money by creating higher margins. I'm sure most of you use Chubby's Parts Matrix to mark up your parts. Selling mostly auto repair drives down your potential parts margins. Most repair parts are expensive, including electrical components, computer modules, engines, and transmissions. But consistent courtesy checks drive the service side of your business, where parts cost less and margins are much higher. By the way, ATI's goal for you is to make about 53% average margin on parts, plus what you get for shop supplies. In order to maintain a 53% parts margin using Chubby's matrix, 70% of your sales should be service, not repair. Remember, service is driven by your consistent courtesy check program. Consistent courtesy checks also help increase labor margin by creating higher productivity. And higher productivity means a lower labor cost per hour if your technicians are paid hourly or salary. Consistent courtesy checks also help you sell more work that your apprentice techs can do at a substantially lower cost than your A-level techs. Let me show you what I mean. In this shop, their loaded cost for their A-level tech is $34.18 per hour, but their loaded cost for their apprentice tech is only $15.37 per hour. Their A-level tech has to maintain an $85.46 per hour effective labor rate to maintain a 60% profit margin on labor sales. But because their apprentice tech costs a lot less, the apprentice only has to maintain a $38.41 per hour effective labor rate to maintain that same 60% profit margin. Now, this shop's mechanical labor rate is $75 an hour. So, assuming both techs are paid flat rate, this shop makes $40.82 in labor profit for each hour the A tech produces, but a much higher $59.63 in labor profit per hour when their apprentice is able to do the work. So their effective labor margin per hour sold is 54% for their A tech and a whopping 80% for their apprentice. Of course, the challenge will be getting the apprentice to work almost as fast as the A tech. That won't happen if most of your sales are diagnostic and repair. But consistent courtesy checks help drive the work your apprentices can do quickly and can do well. I'm guessing at this point, you agree consistent courtesy checks help you make more money. But if you're like many shop owners, you may have challenges getting your service team to actually do them consistently. By the way, you can track your courtesy checks as a percent of your car count in ATI's data portal. The charts and graph feature makes it easy to watch this KPI over time. This shop's benchmark is just below 80%, and you know what? I get that if they do a lot of state inspections or if they check out cars one week and their customers return the next week for recommended work. But I believe most shops should be closer to 100% courtesy checks as a percent of car count. So how do we fix a dysfunctional system and drive your courtesy check percentage of car count closer to 100%? Well, first, we need to identify the 4 key processes involved in turning customer visits into higher sales. First, your technicians inspect the car. Second, your technicians document what they saw and make recommendations. Third, your service advisor creates a complete estimate. And fourth, your service advisor offers these additional recommendations along with other work requested to your customers using effective selling skills. The hardest part of this whole process is getting your entire team on board. Courtesy checks help everyone make more money, so why is it so hard to get everyone to do them consistently? I can think of at least 3 reasons why courtesy checks are inconsistent. Either they don't want to do them, they don't know how to do them, or they can't do them because something's in their way. So how do we fix they don't want to do them? One question I get all the time is, should I pay my people to do courtesy checks? Well, if your people are paid hourly or salary, you already are. If you pay them flat rate or commission, paying them to do the courtesy check is up to you. But I don't think a financial incentive will change their behavior long term. Have you ever met this guy? Maybe you can get him to do them by creating a financial incentive like an extra 2/10 or a spiff, but if he's really money motivated, he's already doing courtesy checks because he knows if he can find and recommend work, he'll make more money. And if he's not really money motivated, paying him an incentive may motivate him in the beginning. But a true Mr. Comfort Tech will eventually decide the 2 extra tenths isn't worth the effort, especially as he gets closer to quitting time for the day or the week. I believe to create consistency, you're better off getting them on board by creating a noble mission. You see, I believe most people have three core needs. First, they need to make enough money to survive. When they can't pay their bills, it's unlikely they'll think about anything else. Second, they need security. They need to know they can count on a consistent income and a predictable work environment. Once they feel secure, they can move on to the third most critical need most humans have: their need for significance. They need to know their life means something and has real value. And that's exactly what your noble mission gives them. We don't do courtesy checks just to sell something. We do them to protect our customers. We do them so mom can have peace of mind knowing her car is safe, predictable, and reliable at all times. That's why she brings it to us, and that's why we're in business, to take care of people. So, how do you get your people to buy into a noble mission? At ATI, we have 24 core values we review constantly as a company and as individuals. We call them the ATI fundamentals. Each week, one of our associates picks a fundamental and shares what it means to them both personally and how they interact with others. Our entire company gets their email every Sunday night. We start every company meeting with our fundamental of the week. And you know what? That's the key. You've got to keep your noble mission in front of your team all the time. And most important, get them involved. I believe one of the greatest gifts you can give your employees is to pass along your values. The values that helped you create your awesome business and build long-term trusting relationships with your customers. So, what if your team believes in your noble mission, but they still don't do consistent courtesy checks? Maybe it's because they don't know how you want them done. Ideally, you train your senior people and then they train your junior people and also train new hires. But how much time have you actually invested in hands-on courtesy check training with your team? Simply telling them what you expect or handing them an employee handbook has virtually no lasting value. Here's what people actually retain from 4 common training methods after just 24 hours. 7% from lecture or verbal instruction, 15% if you give them a handbook and they actually read it, 25% if they watch the video, and just 30% if they watch you or another employee demonstrate what you want. Bottom line, training just isn't very effective at changing human behavior long term. So, how do you do training that creates lasting behavior change? By getting them involved. People retain 50% of what they learn during a discussion. They learn more by feeding what you want back to you than by hearing you tell them what you want. And they retain 70% of what they learn when they practice with hands-on training. And check this out, teaching others creates 90% retention. The best way to help your senior team members grow is to get them to teach and mentor your junior employees and train future new hires. By the way, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. The third reason your team may not be doing consistent courtesy checks is because they simply can't. Something is in their way. Maybe they don't have time or the form is too hard to use. There's no point demanding compliance when they can't possibly give you what you want. Your job is to remove any roadblocks in their way. Okay, so here's the moment you've all been waiting for. How do you create consistency? First, you must define your vehicle inspection procedures. I think most shops need at least 3 to 4. 2 you charge for, 2 are usually free. Let's start with the inspections you do for a fee. If you're a state safety inspection station, you have to follow your state's procedures. And most of you probably sell a detailed used car pre-purchase inspection too. Your 2 free inspections are what ATI calls your courtesy check. I believe you need a full 30-point inspection procedure when you have the time to pull the wheels and check the brakes, but you also need a shorter quick check procedure when you don't have time to pull the wheels and check the brakes. You might be thinking, what do I need 2 versions of the courtesy check for? Well, have you ever seen a courtesy check form filled out like this, where all your tech did was draw a line from the top of the page to the bottom? This happens in shops all across North America, and it drives most shop owners and managers crazy. You try and stop it, but it just keeps happening. So why does it keep happening? Because this is what you get when your technician simply doesn't have time to complete the check. You've got to remove the time roadblock by creating a quick check procedure. See, the fact is, your techs simply don't have time to pull all four wheels on every single car. Waiting oil change customers want to get out of your door in 30 minutes or less. To sell add-ons to this customer, you have to start the oil change and complete a quick check in under 10 minutes. That way, your service advisor can create an estimate and bring it to your customer's attention within the first 15 minutes of their visit. Remember, she plans to be gone at 30 minutes after the hour. If you try and sell additional services at 25 minutes into the oil change, especially ones that'll delay her departure, she'll turn you down because she needs to leave in 5 minutes. And even if she gives you authorization to do some of it, if you delay her departure time, she may never come back because you didn't meet her expectations. Tire customers often decide to buy tires at the last minute. They often expect you to put 4 tires on their car in 59 minutes or less, and if you're not able to do it, they may go to your competitor who says they can. So here are 4 good reasons to create a quick check procedure. Number 1, take care of waiting customers. Number 2, take care of tire customers. Number 3, reduce technician time on waiting client vehicles, which gives them more time to work on other cars. And Number 4, give you the ability to implement your 100% courtesy check percent of car count goal by requiring every car get a courtesy check, either your full version or your quick version. Consistency from car to car and tech to tech is critical. When inconsistency creeps in, your system goes off the rails. Excuses tarnish your noble mission and your brand's integrity. So how do you create consistency? First, you've got to clearly define your procedures in writing. I suggest you get your lead tech to help. Document how he does his courtesy check from beginning to end. Then you have to create your SOP form. SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedure. You know, these aren't really procedure forms. They're sales tools. They don't define how your tech does the inspection. They just show the results. They're fine to help your service advisors sell the job, but I believe you need to develop an actual procedure form that details exactly how you want your techs to check cars. I believe your form should detail exactly what your tech should check on every car and exactly when they should check it. Here's a Microsoft Word document I created that you can edit to create your form. Ask your ATI coach for a copy. It's based on what I used to do when I was working as a tech. So the courtesy check starts at the write-up, and I believe your service advisor should check the service history before giving the technician the repair order. Let's face it, if you just replaced the brakes on all 4 wheels 4,000 miles ago, why waste time pulling the wheels now for a maintenance oil change? And if you did a roll flush service recently where you replaced all their fluids, then why take the time to pull fluid samples again on this visit? Your service advisor should also attach the factory scheduled maintenance due based on the mileage. That way your tech can see if it's been done. Next, your technician will probably get in the car, so it's time to check items in the car's interior. Blow the horn. Check air conditioning function. Check interior lights, including warning lights, dome lights, and other convenient lights. And before they start the car, be sure they check the brake pedal height. The last thing you want them to do is start driving the car and then find out they have no brakes. Maybe you want them to check the parking brake for travel and release. And why not turn on the windshield wipers, check washer operation, and see if the wiper blades smear the windshield. I like to do a short road test, noting the steering wheel position and listen for noises. And you know, if the steering wheel isn't straight while driving straight, then the car needs an alignment. The front individual toe is definitely off. Then I'd bring the car in the shop. I used to have a helper get in the car so I could do a quick exterior light check. I'd stand about 5 feet behind the car and give my helper the following speech. Turn on the lights, start the car, hit the brake. Put it in reverse, put it in part, turn signal, other side. Then I'd walk to the front of the car and say, high beams, low beams, turn signal, Other side. Pull the hood release. Thanks, you can get out. My helper would exit the vehicle, and I'd check wiper blade condition, raise the now released hood, and check under the hood for belts, hoses, fluid level, fluid leaks, and battery condition. Then I'd check the struts and shocks with a bounce test. Next, I racked the car and lifted it about waist high. This gave me a chance to check the tires for air pressure, tread conditions, and wear patterns. And since the shocks and struts were fully extended, it made it pretty easy to check the piston seals for leaks. I'd grab the tires at 12 and 6 o'clock and do a suspension check. I looked for strut mount free play, looseness in the ball joints, and wheel bearing free play. Then I grabbed the tires at 3 and 9 o'clock and do a steering check. I looked for looseness in the inner and outer tie rod ends, pitman arm horizontal free play, and idler arm vertical free play. If I was doing a complete check, then I'd pull all 4 wheels and do a thorough brake check. But if I didn't have time to do a complete check, then I'd do a quick check of the brakes by taking a flashlight and checking the outer brake pads for wear. This is easy on most of today's cars because most cars have 4-wheel disc brakes and open spoke wheels. Then I'd raise the lift all the way up and do my undercar check. I looked at tie rod condition. I looked for seal damage and proper lubrication. I looked for fluid leakage at the inner tie rod rack boot, which indicates internal rack seal failure. And I looked at how many threads are exposed on the tie rods side to side. If there's a significant difference, then something's wrong with the alignment. I looked at the steering arm's vertical position and distance to the wheel. If there's a difference side to side, chances are they're damaged and the car's turning angle is wrong. Turning angle is an alignment measurement that impacts tire wear and stabilities on turns. I looked at the suspension for wear in control arm bushings, shock mounting bushings, and checked the distance from the strut to the top of the tire. If there's a difference side to side, it usually means the included angle's off, which impacts scrub radius, straight ahead stability, and pull. By the way, it also may indicate a bent strut or a bent steering knuckle. I checked the driveline for leaking or damaged CV boots and drive shaft U-joints for rust and wear. I checked the cooling system for a worn lower radiator hose, leaks at transmission cooler lines, and weepage from the water pump weepull, which may indicate a worn water pump seal. I checked the inner brake pads for wear and looked for excessive free play in the parking brake cable, which usually means the rear brakes aren't self-adjusting correctly and need further inspection. I checked the brake hydraulic lines and hoses for leaks and signs of wear. I checked the exhaust system for muffler and converter condition, and checked the condition of the exhaust pipes and hangers. Finally, I put a drain bucket under the engine crankcase and started draining the oil. The keys to this whole process are speed, completeness, and consistency. A quick check would take about 8 to 10 minutes. A complete check would take 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the length of the road test. Now that you have your complete check and quick check procedures defined in writing, it's time to roll out your new courtesy check program with your entire team. It's time to hold a courtesy check SOP meeting. First, you sell your noble mission to your service team. Next, you hand out your new procedure forms. Then, the lead tech who helped you build the new procedures demonstrates how to perform the new procedures step by step using your forms. Now it's time for some hands-on practice. Practice with several cars and have every tech fill out a form for every car. Then you and your team compare the recommendations made by each tech. Now it's time for you and your team to discuss your standards. And guess what? You can expect some very different opinions on what's needed and what's not. It's time for you to play Supreme Court Justice, hear opposing arguments, and then offer your opinion, which becomes the law of the land, unless you decide to change it at a future meeting. Now it's time to reinforce your new standards with additional hands-on training, so have your team fill out new forms on the same multiple cars again. The meeting ends when every form is the same. And guess what you do when courtesy checks start getting inconsistent again? Yep, hold another meeting. Do the entire meeting again. The longer it takes, the better. Your team will get the message you're serious and you're going to hold them accountable. You know what that gives you? Real integrity. Many owners feel they treat customers with integrity. This process ensures it's a reality. So, how do you make sure your team performs to your standard on every car? By creating an effective accountability process. First, you got to create an accountability paper trail. Then, start doing weekly work order audits. Check out all your tickets at least once per week. Do one-on-one counseling with employees when they don't meet your standard. And I'd have your lead tech or service writer cancel your junior employees. And hold follow-up SOP meetings when one-on-one counseling isn't giving you the results you're looking for. Here's how to create an effective paper trail. First, every car should get a work order. No exceptions, ever. Second, your techs must attach a courtesy check form to every work order using either the complete check or quick check procedure. Your service advisor can't accept any work order back from your tech without a courtesy check form attached. Third, your service advisor verifies the factory scheduled maintenance recommendations are attached to the work order stack. Ideally, your service advisor reviews it with your customers when they drop off their car, but your tech attaches it to the work order when handing in the paperwork when your service advisor doesn't have time to get it at the drop. Fourth, your service advisor builds a complete estimate and attaches it to the work order stack. Fifth, your service advisor attaches the invoice to the work order stack. And sixth, your service advisor writes the next agreed upon service date on your shop's invoice. I suggest you use a rubber stamp. You should see one of three things: an appointment 30 days from today for additional needed work, an appointment 4 months from now for their next oil service, or the customer's initials indicating they didn't want to make an appointment. I believe your service advisor should audit every work order every day to verify the work order stack is complete for every car. Shop owners should do a work order audit at least once per week to verify everyone is following your procedure. First, start with a work order. Did we document the customer's main concerns? Second, look at the courtesy check form and your tech's recommendations. Did your tech do a complete courtesy check and address the customer's main concerns? Third, verify your tech or service advisor attached the factory scheduled maintenance to the work order stack. Fourth, look at the estimate. Did your service advisor create an estimate for every recommendation? If not, you better find out why not. Your techs will mutiny if they feel they're wasting their time writing complete courtesy checks and making recommendations if your service advisor doesn't even take time to include them in their estimate and create an opportunity to sell them to your customers. Fifth, look at the invoice and compare it to the estimate. What did your service advisor sell? What didn't they sell? This gives you a chance to identify when they need additional training and determine if you're losing business to competition because you're priced too high on some items. For example, maybe you see a transmission fluid exchange service for around $200 on every estimate, but you never see one sold on an invoice. Go ask your service advisor why they're not closing the sale. Listen very carefully to their response. Maybe they say, well, frankly, I think this is nothing but fluff. All we really need to do is drop the pan and change 4 or 5 quarts of fluid. In that case, you have a belief system problem. You need to share why you feel a complete fluid exchange service is far better for your customer and why it's worth your customer investing a lot more money in their car. Discussion is the key. They need to come around to your way of thinking. Simply ordering them to sell a service they don't believe in will cause an internal integrity conflict and derail your sales process long term. Remember, you can't actually force them to do anything. Your goal is to influence their belief systems in a positive way to get their buy-in and get the behavior you want. Maybe they say, I keep trying to sell the service, but customers refuse. They keep showing me a coupon from a shop nearby that does a drop the pan and fill procedure for $99. What do you need to do now? Either help your service advisor come up with compelling benefits of why your $200 service is far better for your customer, or maybe you need to create a drain and fill service that matches the price from the other shop and then Teach your service advisor how to upsell the benefits of your $200 service. 6, and finally, verify your service advisor made the effort to schedule your customer for their next service visit. ATI calls this our exit appointment procedure. Getting your customer's commitment of when to bring their car back is critical to stabilizing your car count. Simply relying on sending them automated postcards or emails isn't even half as effective. Automated postcards or emails can be helpful reminders to keep your customer's next appointment top of mind, but they're no substitute for getting their commitment to bring their car back on your timetable by making their next appointment at vehicle delivery. Okay, follow-up time. Build your optimum check procedures with your lead technician. Get the Microsoft Word courtesy check procedure template from your coach, and then build your own version to match your new optimum procedures. Hold your first courtesy check SOP meeting and put time on your schedule for weekly work order audits. This is Matt Winslow from the Automotive Training Institute. Thanks so much for watching.